Let's get started. I would like to welcome everyone to our first Chalk Talk of the spring semester. Today, we're going to be talking with executives from Octagon. With us is Lisa Murray. She is the CMO from Octagon. I guess you're all from Octagon, so I don't have to say more details, right? We have Lauren Tietjen, who I probably said that wrong. Is it Tietjen? Tietjen?
It's Tietjen.
Yep. Tietjen. Okay, good. Want to make sure I got that pronounced properly. She is the Senior Vice President of Events, and I have Alyssa Romano with us. She is the Vice President of Communications for Talent. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited to have this conversation. But first, what I thought I would do is go around the horn and have you all give a little bit of a background of exactly what you do with Octagon, and then we'll get into our discussion questions. So Lisa, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Well, first, thank you, Bree. We're all big Bree fans. So all of you students are very lucky to have Dr. Newland as one of your instructors, because we think she's very good and much smarter, at least than I. Can't speak for the other two women, but much smarter than I. So what do I do? So I have been around for, 30 plus years in the agency in the sports marketing world. And I wear many hats, and that includes working with brand clients like an Allstate, Cisco, MasterCard, LinkedIn, help with new business, help with the marketing communications of Octagon and our sister agencies in the entertainment world, and also with our employees. So I also work on the diversity and inclusion initiatives for employees around the world. So that's pretty much a snapshot of what I do.
I'll jump in. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Tietjen. So I help run our events group at Octagon, and that could be anything from a multi-day, large-scale kind of professional golf tournament all the way down to a conference, a food festival, or even, branded experiences that we do for our brand clients. And, previous to that, I worked alongside Alyssa and did agency PR, so helped promote Octagon in the marketplace, and helped get stories placed about our agency and about the awesome people that we all get to work with and about our clients. I'm thrilled to be spending the next hour with you all.
Hey guys, I will apologize if it is loud in the background. I was just talking with Lisa, Lauren, and Bree about how I just came from a meeting that went a little bit longer. So I'm taking this from the streets of Tampa Bay, where there are a lot of fans roaming the streets from the parade today. I handle PR for our athletes, broadcasters, and personalities at Octagon. So helping our clients share their stories on and off the field through traditional media like TV interviews, radio, to social content, what they're posting, what they're creating, and how they're sharing it. I have been at Octagon my entire career, so the past 10 and a half years, and I'm from New York, and my favorite color is yellow. Very important stuff.
Yes, and I love the yellow headband to really make that point. Okay, so as you know, we are in a very unique time with all of the changes and a lot of the activism that's happening with our athletes. Can you guys speak to how the rise in female activism has impacted your work? And what are some outcomes you've seen via those who you're representing, whether they be athletes or organizations?
I'll start with this one from the athlete side, so, and especially female athletes. So I work with a lot of WNBA players, including the past two MVPs, and Elena Delle Donne and Asia Wilson. The WNBA has been at the forefront for social justice for years prior to this one. It's actually really interesting, the GQ piece that just came out on Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe, they really dive into that, and it just shows how long the W has been at the forefront of this movement. For me, from a media standpoint, so many more outlets were interested in speaking with our female athletes. It was like the light turned on, right? Again, they've been doing this for years, but now ABC News and NBC and these national platforms are ready to talk to our clients and make sure that, or share their messaging. And what was great is this exposure for them, but was also challenging because it's a lot of pressure for them to carry this huge responsibility to be sharing these messages, especially for our Black female athletes who have the weight of the world on their shoulders, seeing everything that's going on in the news, then being this voice. So for me, it was making sure that when they're doing the media opportunities, the people that they're speaking with are thoughtful, know the background, know the history of what our clients have been doing, know what questions to ask them, and then also so our clients are prepared. Because I think with female athletes too, that there aren't as many opportunities, or there hasn't been as many opportunities to make this national impact. So when they're on the microphone talking, they want to get it right. They don't have as many opportunities. So that's been really interesting. And it's awesome. It is so great to work for such powerful female athletes who use their platform and use it in a way that's making change. And so however we can help and support them in doing that, it's really fulfilling. And it's just been, it's been a great experience, and just a lot of learning too along the way, but especially these past couple of months, it's been really great.
Yeah, thanks for that, Alyssa. I think also on the property side, right? Because at Octagon, some of the events that we run, we actually manage the whole event itself. So we're out in the marketplace selling sponsorships to that event, and then actually bringing it to life and making it happen. And the work that we do on the LPGA, you know, I've seen it from a different angle, and so we find that major brands are continuously more and more attuned to opportunities with women's professional sports, and really investing, you know, maybe more than they have in the past, or they're aligning it with their other sports sponsorships, so that they can really make sure that the dollars they're spending and investing are aligned with the values of their organization. And in many cases, they use that platform for employee engagement, for, you know, ways to give exposure to their employees that are positive, right? So whether it's professional development opportunities through some of the conferences we run as shoulder programming, or just, you know, recognition opportunities, and give people a chance to kind of see women professional athletes succeeding in a different way. And so, you know, we continually see more interest for it. There's an increase in ratings, in social media engagement. And like Alyssa said, as the athletes continue to get more opportunities, they get better and better at being spokespersons for their sport and for themselves. And it's kind of this virtuous cycle that continues to build on itself. So to me, it's like a privilege to work with those properties and with those athletes, because I believe in it so much. And I've got a little daughter who I want her to be able to see great women doing that cool stuff. And so if I can do that as my job, then hey, that's a good day.
And I think my comment, it's in a broad view. So it's getting more and more normal. So when you walk into a meeting and there's women in the room, I love to say it's not that much of a wow, which is great. It shouldn't be that much of a wow. And so it's trending to be that our clients on the brand side and the ones that and the personalities Alyssa works for, it's more of the norm to say we need to be diverse. We need to have athletes that look like our employees, that look like our customers. So the beauty or the silver lining is it's getting better. I feel it's really getting better. And if you look at the Super Bowl as an example, to have a referee, I loved what Amanda did before the game. We have female broadcasters. So I'm not saying it's perfect by any means, and there is a long, long way to go, but there are strides in this industry that are moving to a very positive light.
Lisa, well, to all of you on that end, have you seen like how are sponsors coming to you now to say, hey, women's sports is where we want to start to put our attention and our dollars? Or is it something that you still sort of have to introduce as opportunities where they can really perhaps gain a competitive edge by sponsoring women's sports?
I'll jump in. I think it's case by case, certainly, but more and more, the brands are looking at their portfolio in less of a vacuum than they do, right? It's like this total view where they're thinking about their audience, what they need to sell and achieve as a business, and knowing that women are half the population. Well, gosh, we should be supporting women's professional sports and thinking about the audiences that this can help us reach. So I don't, most of our clients are really sophisticated in terms of, how they understand the marketplace, and they're just smart marketers. But what we help them see is which properties are right for them, what the right type of assets to go out, and the type of experiences to be able to build with their property partners, their teams, their ambassadors, the athletes they work with. So it's not just the deal, but it's what goes into the deal that's going to be meaningful. And I think that's what we do. One of the things we do really, really well at Octagon is kind of listen and take it all in, and then put it through a number of filters, some of which are very data driven, others which are creatively driven, in order to come up with a really strong solution.
I would say we get, from the athlete marketing side, I would say we've gotten more inquiries for female athletes this year than we have in the past. But what's interesting is an offer for an MVP player in the WNBA and an offer for an MVP player in the NBA is still drastically different from the financial standpoint. So a lot of our clients are like, great, you want to support women's sports, but you're still only paying me $5,000 when my male counterpart is getting paid $500,000, right? So I think it's like it's there, but it's still not all the way there. So we're working towards that.
Lisa, did you have anything to add on that one?
No, I think both from a brand perspective and an athlete perspective, I think both women have projected exactly what's out there. It on the brand side, it's up to objectives. It's what makes sense for the brand, and we are probably being a little bit more forthcoming that if you're going to do the PGA, the LPGA makes sense. You have to remember the PGA and the NHL and the NFL, they have a lot of female fans. So reaching the females is the way to go, on males. So female sports oftentimes may not be the only solution, but there are so many assets from a female sport, a league, that can be taken advantage of from a brand, that it's really exciting. So I would say 10 years ago, it would never come to the table. And now, again, I guess I'm going back to, it's more commonplace. May not be always equitable, but the conversation's not as unique.
Before we move on to my next question, we actually had a question from the attendees, and please feel free to drop your questions in as you have them. Carlos asked you, Alyssa, you mentioned that you had, you came from a meeting with Gleyber Torres. He's just curious about whether or not you can share anything about the meeting as far as like your role into what he requests or what his needs are.
Yeah, so for all of our athletes, we have a team that surrounds them. There's their player agent, a day-to-day manager, a publicist, and a marketing agent. So with certain clients who desire to do more marketing, or who desire to be out, in the public a bit more, we do meetings every year. We all get together. We talk about, okay, what is the plan for 2021? What are your goals? What did we do last year that worked? What didn't work? And so that's what we had today for Gleyber. It was an overview of last season, which was a very unique season. Things that we didn't get to do last year that we want to do this year, and where he is projecting to go. From my standpoint, what stories we want the media to be talking about this year. What marketing partners does he have, and how do we integrate that into all the messaging he's doing? And then also off the field stuff, like him and his wife maybe getting a new house, if they're getting any pets, trying to find out what's happening for them so we can build more of a lifestyle story. So this time of year, we usually just all get together, talk, present the plan, review stuff, and then formalize the plan for 2021 after the meeting.
Great, thank you. So turning back to Lisa, you mentioned you're now heading the diversity and inclusion initiatives. Can you speak to some of the things that or initiatives that Octagon is tackling and the trends of what you see moving forward of how you all?
Yeah. So I'd like to say Octagon has always had inclusive diversity top of mind. But in all honesty, when George Floyd's situation, when his death happened, it opened up all of our eyes big time. And so no longer was it an HR initiative or an employee initiative. It was, it became a priority for all of us. And once that happened in May, we really just stopped. And we talked and we listened to our diverse employees, to our clients, and we needed to rehaul everything that we had done. And our senior management made it a priority and made it a commitment. Our parent company, and then IPG even more so. So we have committed more resources, both financially and with people, to truly make change happen. And to Lauren's point, our clients and Alyssa's clients want to have an agency that reflects who they are. And so that's what we're working on. And we have a ways to go, but we take it seriously. We've hired people, and this is in the United States, not to say there aren't issues around the world, and we are learning what those issues are, but there's no one-stop shopping, because even if you take a region like Asia Pacific, the issues in Japan are different than Korea, different than China, different than Singapore, different than India. So that's a whole different ball game. But what we thought we were doing right, as we said, we're all good people, like we didn't know there were big issues out there. It was May of last year where we really stopped and looked within and again, listened to people and had private conversations and uncomfortable conversations and learned. And so there is no going back. And we are only moving forward in recruitment and creating an environment that's equitable and comfortable for everybody. So it is here to stay. And I'm so proud of the work that we've done. And as I said, last year, it was challenging on so many levels with the COVID and our inclusive diversity initiatives and challenges. But we have learned so much and we are moving forward. So I am very grateful to all of my colleagues and excited about what's to come.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that too, and echo exactly what you said. Like it's such a priority for us, especially on the athlete side, when more than half of our clients are Black, and how we're communicating and people that we're hiring, and how we are helping them use their voices during this time has been 80% of my job recently. You know, it's constantly thinking bigger picture. How do we help? Also, how do we lean on our colleagues who we're getting guidance from, how we're communicating with our clients. So it's been so important, and I know it will continue to be that way moving forward. But this year was just really eye-opening for us.
We have a question from the attendees. Yanis wanted, in relation to this specifically, he wanted to know the drop in viewership in sports, even pre-pandemic, may be pointing to a harsh reality that viewers might not like their sports teams to play politicians or social activists. Do you think it's advisable to push sports teams towards that direction?
You want to take that one?
Do I think it's advisable? My advice is be who you are and do it, like, you know, be who you are and what you believe in at your core. that is from the athlete perspective. I think that some businesses will have a different opinion than I will, but from the athlete perspective, I always tell our clients, like, if this is how you feel, this is truly what you want to do, then let's do it. But always know there could be consequences. So just preparing them for both sides of it. But especially over the past couple of months, I've definitely encouraged our clients to use their platform in that way. But from a business perspective, there might be different responses too.
Yeah, I think that's such a great answer, Alyssa. And I would say authenticity. So be authentic. And when you are authentic and honest, there's going to be people that believe in you and people that don't believe in you. And that's the risk you take. And brands do look at that. There's no question about it. And then that's up to the brand to decide how they want to move forward. So it's an excellent question, but I think Alyssa's answer is true. It's just authenticity, I think, plays out towards the end.
Yeah, and I think the properties, right, the leagues, the teams, right, they're bigger than just sports. This is our culture. This is who we are. These are our passions. This is when we have free time or free money, like this is one of the places we put it. And so you know, they can't, I don't think all of those teams are comfortable anymore just sitting in that sports silo, right? And so there are teams and there are leagues that are choosing to kind of use that opportunity and use that megaphone that they have for causes that they believe in. And so I just think that sports transcends culture and is just a bigger part of who we are than just on the court.
Another thing too from that question about viewership, it's also interesting to see where the data comes from, right? Viewership in terms of TV, yeah, it's down, but people are watching on Twitch or they're streaming it, right? So it's looking at the data really closely and figuring out where the new viewers are coming from. And so I think that was a big piece that was not shared across all viewership numbers in particular sports.
Yeah, and to your point, Alyssa, there's a lot of variables that go into why viewership is declining, and not necessarily could be related to what, to the activism that's happening as well. So, thinking about it in that larger context of what's affecting it could be a big thing to look at. Like you're right, share it, look at the data more deeply. Absolutely. Another question that popped up related to what we're talking about here. What women's sports do you think have the potential to rival in market capitalization their male counterparts, which would lead, hold on, let me read that again. So what impact or what areas do women's sports have to counter their male counterparts as far as equitable pricing for women athletes' labor? What incentives could teams or colleges be given to try to amplify women athletes' compensation, even if the current market forces might not point in that direction?
I'll jump in with just an example of some work that we've done as Octagon recently. So we work with the NWSL, right? And they're a great example of a female sports property that's just grown. And we worked with them to help them go to market with their media rights recently. So Octagon has a division, and it's media rights consulting. We go out and we help teams and leagues and, figure out what their media rights are worth, where and how they should be packaging them out into the marketplace. And then ultimately, if that's what they ask us to do, we kind of go out and help make those deals for them. And that, which many of you know, because Dr. Newland's such a great teacher, is that, that's a huge revenue stream from a property perspective and critical. And so we worked with the NWSL in their most recent rights cycle to help them capitalize on the market and help them really understand what the opportunity was, best way to package those rights, and then go out and make that happen. And not only does that drive revenue for the league and ultimately for the teams and the players, if you want to really think about the whole cycle, but it also helps grow exposure for all of those people I just mentioned. And so again, it helps kind of grow the pot. And we can tune into an NWSL game if we want to. I couldn't do that when I was a kid playing soccer, right? So I'd have to wait for a World Cup or whatever, and once every 4 years. And so it's, if you just media rights and kind of exposure, right? Because we're just talking about that. But if it's done the right way, if it's done thoughtfully, that can really help grow that opportunity for women's sports.
Yeah, it's also really hard to be a women's sports fan, right? Like if I go to a Dick's Sporting Goods right now, will I see the MVP of the WNBA's jersey? No. Will I see a LeBron jersey? Yes. Like it's really hard to find women's sports games. The WNBA viewership was up this year because it was on ESPN because there were no male sports playing at that time. So it's hard. It's not apples to apples, right? The marketing isn't the same. It's really hard to be a women's sports fan. That's what we say. Like WNBA fans are the best fans on the planet because they have to work so hard to be a fan.
Yeah, and I'll say too, if you don't grow up in a market where it's valued, right? I'm from Connecticut. I live here now. So I had the benefit of growing up the Lady Huskies, right? And playing basketball and going to that camp and how freaking cool. And I follow them on Instagram and oh my God, like, you know, that game was awesome the other night. So it's you have to also kind of, you know, look at different markets and understand, like, to Lisa's point about there not being one size solution for every client, there's also not a one single solution for every market or every property. It's regional too in some ways. And, you know, how people's passions lie really depend on some of what they were exposed to when they were younger and what opportunities they have to grow that fan affinity.
Yeah, and I guess I tend to be a Pollyanna, so looking at the positive side. So Alyssa and Lauren are absolutely correct. But again, there are these moments in time where you do see it. So with the Women's World Cup and their assertiveness and aggressiveness in impacting the financial model is huge. And when the Olympics happen, which I hope they do, and Simone is just the queen of the ball, that will be a moment in time. So I'm hoping that these moments in times aren't every 4 years or every quadrennium, whatever the case may be, but it's more and more frequent. And I think that is the case. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. But I do feel that there is momentum and positivity. And I think fans are looking for this. I think it's great. They want to see an Elena Delle Donne. So our job too, and Alyssa's job, is to put them more in the forefront so that people recognize their accomplishments and rightfully get that attention.
So the next question that came up are, what are your thoughts of the value concept that Overtime is exploring with professionalizing high school athletes?
I will take this one as someone who set up an Overtime takeover today. If you were to ask me this question 10 years ago, I think my answer would have been really different. But the way that high school athletes are using social media and the value that is there for those athletes, now doing it responsibly and making sure that the finances are in control and stuff, I think go for it. They are creating media platforms. They have more than dozens, hundreds of thousands of followers, right? The same way that a network would pay to have that many viewers. So I support it. I think Overtime's great. I think they're doing great stuff. I am afraid of burnout from the athlete, especially if they've been in the spotlight at such a young age. But you know, it's hard to turn away from that now when everybody has a camera. Everybody is a videographer shooting things. So if you can capitalize on that, bring in some revenue, especially for kids who might not come from great families or who don't have that kind of income, I think it's a great opportunity. But I don't think everyone will agree with me on that.
I'm gonna pause for a second, give Alyssa a little props here for the audience. You got everybody, like, you have to know she's one of the best people in the business when it comes to athlete and talent PR. And she was super progressive when things like the Players Tribune first hit the marketplace. And she helped our clients figure out how to use a platform and create their own voice and really put meaning behind that first person storytelling that now is like just commonplace and we don't really think about it. But Alyssa, you should take so much credit for that because she was really progressive at the time, pushing our athletes, teaching the rest of us about the virtues of what that platform could bring for them. And then what was that Elena interview? Remember that she did, like, I remember we were watching or something together, but just giving our athletes a voice through the platforms where they can impact the most people in a positive way. And so I had to say that on your behalf.
Thank you. But I think about overtime a lot. It's weird that question came up today because I've talked to them a lot today. The next generation is watching social media the way I grew up watching TV, right? They're watching YouTube and Twitch and whatever. So if high schoolers create channels that have a ton of viewership, it's the same thing as NBC creating shows and they need ads. So I don't know. Again, I'm for it, but I know it causes some controversy, especially with the NCAA. So we're going to get to that soon.
So it's been reported about athletes not being able to hold on to their wealth after their playing careers. How does financial literacy play a role at Octagon with your clients?
I'll take that one. So Octagon is the only agency that has an in-house financial services group. They've been around for 30 years. They are called OFS. Financial literacy is extremely important. We tell our athletes it's not about what you earn, it's what you keep. So we are very vocal and involved with our clients and their finances. Yes, you do hear horror stories that happens, but not that it's never happened to any of our clients, but we are very strategic in that regard. And we try to share too, like the great stories, the stories about our clients investing in companies early. It's like that, those stories you're hearing a little bit more and more, but we're trying to hopefully those stories overpower the negative ones in the future.
All right. So I'm going to pivot us here a little bit, and you all have had, especially Lauren, your division, have had really been impacted by COVID. How has this impacted your events, and can you share how each of your areas, especially you, Lauren, have pivoted due to the pandemic?
Yeah. So we've got 25 minutes left. No, I'm kidding. No, it's been very challenging. Middle of March when kind of everything stopped, so to speak. We had to pause what we were kind of planning and doing and really sit down and roll up our sleeves. And I joked many times over the course of last year that I wasn't an event manager anymore. I was a scenario planner. And that's really what my job became. It was understanding operationally and financially what those different scenarios would look like and how they could play out. I mean, it was changing major professional tour schedules, sometimes multiple times, deciding if an event was going to happen altogether or not, making calls about whether or not we were going to allow fans, right? So we had an event we were running in December in Texas, and in August and September, myself and my team, we were going, okay, are we going to make the bet that by then the health climate will allow us to have fans safely? And is that the right thing to do? And will that work within our budget scenario we've laid out? And really we didn't have crystal balls. No one has a crystal ball, but we had to use all the data and all of our experience to try to make the best possible informed decision and to mitigate risk. And that's really on our side of the business, what it came down to was mitigating risk for our clients and for ourselves in those events that we owned. And so what I will say is on my best days, I really just looked at it as an opportunity to be super creative. And, we didn't have to just roll out the playbook from last year and do the same event. We actually had an opportunity and a need to be super communicative with all of our partners, to be really creative in terms of our problem solving and ways and things that we could build engagement opportunities safely. And, figure out virtual events and run a whole bunch of virtual events, large and small. So it was challenging, but honestly, I think it brought out some really, really wonderful things in our agency and our people. In a lot of ways, I talked to more people face-to-face than I ever have before, if you count this face-to-face. And, we've gone through challenges with our clients to the point where you feel even more connected with them because you've been through those things together. So it was a really challenging year, and it continues to be challenging, right? The health climate isn't one where you can go host an event with 30, 40,000 people right now that not necessarily anywhere, especially those events that are built and not existing in a typical stadium or arena infrastructure. So we're still having to be very creative and thoughtful about our planning and what we do.
And to add to that, when Lauren says creativity, that's a big win for us, because we had to push ourselves to figure out what to do. So if you can no longer go to a football match in England and someone is a sponsor of Liverpool or Man City, what do you do? So Cisco is a sponsor of Man City, and they came up with a very creative campaign where all the fans would sing their song, which was Blue Moon. And I get chills talking about it because it was such a wonderful campaign. Or Cisco in golf, if you can't go, then what technology do you do? What assets do you have as a corporation to get over the hump? And you have to push yourselves. And that was a magical moment many, many times. So when you're a corporation, what do you have versus what don't you have to make your assets still meet your objectives? And trust me, it didn't happen all the time. And there were some challenges. But there are those magic moments where you go, oh my gosh, look what we can do here. And there will never, I never say we're going to go back to normal. There will never be a normal. On the diversity front and on the COVID front, there will be a new normal, and new technology has to be developed, if it's not already developed, that will make stadiums safe for us once again. There will be college games where everybody will be able to go again. And maybe we'll walk through tunnels and they check our temperature and metal and everything else. I don't know what it's going to look like, but something, we're going to go back, but it will never be the same. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe there'll be better things because of it.
Yeah, for those of you who are golf fans, Lisa referenced Cisco. So for the US Open of golf, when Bryson DeChambeau was talking to his parents, right, through the big screen that was outside the clubhouse and everybody's crying, and that was Octagon and Cisco and the US Open pairing together, working together, and the USGA to make that happen. And so that's like a really just specific example of what Lisa was talking about. But that moment was facilitated by super creative people on all those teams.
How is technology playing a role here for all of the things you're, like how you're innovating and your new creativity? What role is technology playing, and what do you think will stay versus not?
It's everywhere. It's it's how we're doing it. There are some in-person moments and experiences that hopefully we'll get back to in a safe way, relatively soon. But technology is facilitating the vast majority of brand engagements right now. And whether it's through really high-end produced content, or live talks like this one. I've done a lot of live conference Q&As with CEOs and journalists and different things for our brand clients, and used partners who have really high-end broadcast software who are essentially building a show, a broadcast TV show, to Alyssa's earlier point, and just blasting that through a private channel for their audience. So it's really cool, honestly, to learn a bunch of new stuff. But think of hospitality too. Hospitality, we're not, as I always say, the big shrimp. We're not able to serve the big shrimp on site, but the types of priceless moments for MasterCard we've been able to do, where you'll have a chef zoom in and then all the products are sent to you, and you do a cooking lesson or a wine tasting. And who would have ever thought 18 months ago to do a virtual wine tasting, and that's going to be good, and it's great. So even the basics of an experience like hospitality, we've been able to turn it around and make it a memorable moment. So to the person's question, technology plays a huge role.
And again, we will be back together, but I think this will always be a part of it. The Zooms and the virtual experiences, I think, will stay.
I'll make one more point on that, and I agree with Lisa. It's also like, in some ways, it's benefited programming, because you suddenly, it's totally accessible to people. No longer are you confined to an event budget where you've got to fly people, put them in a hotel, feed them, do all that stuff. You can actually open up your content and your experiences so much more widely than you were before. Or think about an internal organization, their meetings, right? Which maybe would have been 200 people at the highest level of their organization, can now be all 1,700 people everywhere can hear the same message at the same time. So I think the adoption and the appetite to use technology has been accelerated, not, because it's had to, but also there's true benefits to it too.
One thing that's been challenging, I guess, with technology, we have to, from the athlete perspective, they're going to do an interview. It's like, oh, we'll just use Zoom, but it's okay. You have to make sure you have Wi-Fi. You have to make sure that the lighting is okay. You have to make sure that the camera setup is right. Or if it's like, oh, just shoot some content, we'll put it up on our social platforms, because you can do that. It's a lot of work. So for me, I've joked, similar to how Laura was talking about the different planning, I've joked that I've become an IT expert. So my clients are like, okay, how are we doing this interview? Is it Zoom? Is it StreamYard? Do I need a microphone? Do I need headphones? Like, what's the setup? So that's been, now I know all the questions to ask when we're doing interviews and stuff, but it's been a little bit challenging.
I can imagine. So my last question for all of you is, what's next? How is Octagon going to move into 2021? And I know we've got some, Olympics on the horizon, and you are involved in that regard. But just from a business perspective, what do you see as trends moving forward this year?
Well, one thing I just noticed at the Super Bowl, the use of influencers, the use of celebrities, athletes, entertainers, that's always been a thing. I did think that most ads that I saw during the Super Bowl involved a celebrity and entertainer, probably because of what we're doing right now with COVID and everything else. So I do think companies have pushed themselves to a new limit of what the capabilities are. I think brands that haven't traditionally been in the sports and entertainment space, when they do, will look at it differently, and that brick and mortar and footprint will change. So I think contracts will be different moving forward. There'll be emphasis on virtual types of assets, perhaps, that haven't been seen before. So I think everyone's going to have a different eye towards the industry. And I feel like I look through rose-colored glasses, and perhaps I do. This business is going to come back, and it's going to come back bigger than ever before in both entertainment and sports. When there's a concert coming, I'm not kidding you, people are going to want to go. So I am not doom and gloom at all. We may have a couple of challenging quarters ahead of us, but once we get through the vaccine and what we believe to be safe and the technology to make us safe, the experiences and people wanting to be together and experience the passion of sports and entertainment will be nothing like we've seen before. So all of you guys who are majoring in sports, it's very, very good, and your timing could be really great. So don't feel depressed, don't feel bummed. It's coming back, and it's there will be a role for everybody. So I don't even know if I answered your question.
You gave us that positivity that we needed.
I think, just to build on what Lisa said too, right? If you think about really far down the line, right? We're going to have a FIFA World Cup in North America. We're going to have the Olympics in 28 in LA. That's not that far off, you guys. Like, you are, when you go to look for a job, those are the first things you need to Google and dial up, because those entities, those properties, all of the kind of machinations around them, they're ramping up too in a big way. And that is just going to be huge for our industry in North America. And I'm excited about where Octagon as an organization sits as we're, 5 and 7 years out from those events. So that's exciting.
Two things I think of when I think of what's next. It's here, but I think the growth and expansion of Twitch and how athletes are using Twitch, not only to engage with fans and play video games, but also to share more about themselves and the programming on Twitch, right? It's not just video games. You can do a cooking show, you can do a whole bunch of things. So I think that's really going to grow. I am learning more and more about gaming and Fortnite and Call of Duty. I got my own Discord, so I kind of know what's going on. And I've been saying this too for the past couple of years, but I think even more so now with the pandemic, athlete media rights, right? We talk about networks and we talk about leagues having media rights, but athletes, especially ones like LeBron James, who have so many followers, soon we'll be negotiating deals to only show LeBron James highlights on LeBron's Instagram, right? So it's, where is that going to go? How is that going to be evaluated? How are athletes going to capitalize on that? So I think that's a big focus for the future.
And since we have students on the line as we wrap up our call here, what are some opportunities that Octagon has for students that you can share so that they, know what to look for if they were interested in your organization?
Well, I'm going to answer that and add some more. Agencies is just one piece of the pie. And I want to make sure that your students realize that the sports industry aren't just agencies and media outlets and leagues and teams. There are so many places to look for an opportunity. And you need to parallel path. And you may love baseball, but make sure you look through the whole landscape of what this industry allows. And it is athletes, and it is broadcasters, and it is venues and agents, and it's cause-related nonprofits, and it's events. It's endless. And the number of jobs available to people are in the thousands. So that's always the point I want to make. There are so many outlets out there, and again, push yourself based on what you do best when you look for a job. As it relates to agencies, I don't know, Lauren, are we hiring today or not? But we do have opportunities, and
We do.
and entry level is always there. So yeah, it's experiences, and it's brand, and it's legal, and it's finances, and it's measurement and research and athlete marketing. And go on our website, www.octagon.com, and you'll see all the different buckets of what we do. And it goes quite deep. So even within one sport, there's a lot to be seen. Or when you look at brands, there's a lot to be seen. So lots of different opportunities. Lauren, is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
I'd say any jobs that have trainee in them are good entry-level position to look at on our website. Right.
Yeah, our trainee program is like a limited term gig that may run anywhere between maybe 3 and 9 months. Gives you an opportunity to get to know the agency, to get a sense of what a certain role or kind of sector of the work that we do is all about, and to build your network, right? More important than anything. So I started at Octagon as an intern. I'm so old, we were called interns back then. Alyssa started as a trainee. So, there's a real path there for all of you to know. It's a real thing.
And I'll add one more thing. I know it's very difficult during COVID to actually have a place to go. But I think what helps people's resume is if they can find a project. So ask companies, is there a project they can do virtually from home? And I'm again always in the bucket of you never know. So use your network, use your professors, use the athletic teams, and maybe there are things you can do from home. And even a project is a great thing to put on your resume. You don't have to have a 6-month trainee gig, but the fact that you worked with so-and-so for 3 months to do X, Y, and Z is a good thing too. So I know these are tough times, but there's always where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, we're coming up on our hour, and I definitely want to be cognizant of your busy schedules. So thank you so much for joining me. And I hope that the next time we do this, we can do it in person. But I definitely want to thank you for your time and expertise. And I hope to see you back soon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are
Bye-bye.
smart.
Ah.
Thank you.